Welcome back to Prime Your Midlife. And just before anybody starts, today we may well be talking about discussions that results in end of life. So if that triggers anybody right at the start, please be prepared and make sure that that isn't going to stimulate bad emotions in you. I've got with me Reece Calvert, and the context today is how bad do things need to get before you reach out and ask for help? And Reece was in a place where we nearly wouldn't have seen him on screen today. And he's going to help us unpack some of the steps that led him to that point. And also, most importantly, the many, many steps in terms of running steps and other steps he's taken to make sure that he's not just here today, but he is absolutely living today. Reece, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, however people find us today. How are you today, mate?
I'm good today. Thanks for that introduction. Yeah. I was saying before, it's a bit hectic at work at the moment, tax year end, but yeah, I'm doing really well. How are you?
I am also well. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back to this time last year, but just before we do that, some simple questions for you, just to put the context of the podcast together and the YouTube. The man of the modern world, you're 30, I think, Reece, which is underneath the normal avatar for this podcast, who are kind of men in midlife. But men as a whole in society, do you think we're getting better or worse in terms of being able to come to terms with our own mental anxiety, Reece?
I do think we're getting better as men, but there's also something not right either, because the latest statistics for suicide just got published, and it's the highest figure, I believe, since '99. It's went up quite a drastic amount since the year before. So obviously, although I think we're making progress and people are speaking out more, there's still people that aren't speaking out and that feel like they can't speak. So while there has been some progress, and I've seen the progress myself, I've seen people talking, I've seen people making an effort, even just putting something out on Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, whatever it may be, but having the courage to actually put something out and reaching out for help. So I do see that there is improvement, but see the statistics don't really match up to that.
Yeah, those stats you just shared, I think it's 6% up overall. And interestingly, or worryingly, there's been a shift from a male to a female outcome, which is the first time that the females have been deciding to take that decision more than men, which is, another flag waver of caution. Okay, some quick fire questions for you, and then we'll unpack some of those answers. First of all, just in terms of thoughts, Reece, do you think we can change our thoughts? It's a kind of a yes or no quick fire round for you.
Yes.
Okay. And do we sometimes get in a place whereby we are not actually able to comprehend the thoughts that we've got?
Yes.
And men as a whole, are we good at being vulnerable?
No.
And what about that word suicide? Is it a taboo subject, Reece?
Yeah, I still think it is.
Fair enough. And I know that you're now a runner, not just a runner, but a long distance runner. We'll talk about that. When you're running, or when people are running, what do you think gives up first, the mind or the body?
The mind. Yeah.
And the mind tells the body to give up, or what?
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
Yeah. I think I definitely think people stop mentally before the body does, because I think your body could go on for a lot longer. I know even for me, I can sometimes be like, all right, I'm too tired to do this, but and then the switch clicks in. It's like, no, keep going, and my body keeps finding. And that's what you've got to do in these ultra marathons, and people are proving that that is possible.
Well, we'll get to that in a little bit, but if you can, I know this might be difficult for you, but I know you've shared this story a few times. We're going to go back to beginning of 2022, perhaps, or even before that. You were not in a great place, Reece. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely.
And what were some of the reasons for that adversity in terms of your thought process and how you were feeling?
Yeah, so I guess it was all down to alcohol, gambling addictions. I didn't really realize that I had those. I thought I was just sort of enjoying myself, but maybe enjoying myself too much. Probably started because I was a chef for 7, 8 years, and when you're cleaning down on an evening after you'd sent your last main course, they would kind of bring up 4 pints for each chef to have while cleaning down, and you'd have them, and then sort of go downstairs and have some more or whatever. This became sort of a reward for every type of day you had. So stressful day, bad day, you done terrible at your job day, whatever it was, that alcohol became the answer. And then gambling became more consistent. That was a little bit later. The alcohol was definitely the first one. I smoked. So yeah, the more I was drinking, the more my mental health was declining.
Okay, let's just pause on that a little bit. I mean, I know the hospitality industry. I used to work in that place, and I can understand that the buzz of doing a shift, particularly on the hot plate as a chef, you're quite wired, aren't you, when you finish those shifts? And I can understand how the alcohol sort of becomes a way of calming yourself down. When did you begin to realize that it was too much, or it was becoming a habit that was not serving you?
I wouldn't say it was probably while I was a chef. I think it kind of, when I stopped being a chef, I decided I'm not going to be a chef, so I'm not going to have that happen anymore. So I'll become normal essentially. But I took them traits along with us. If I had a stressful day, I would go and get some cans from the shop. It would start with 4, and by the end, it was like a crate a night, bottles of rum. So yeah, it gradually got a lot worse.
That's a huge amount, and obviously quite a lot of cost as well associated with
Yeah.
that. And did anybody who loved you or knew you or mattered to you, did anybody suggest to you that this was something that wasn't good, or were they just not aware of it?
Yeah, they were aware. So even early on in my life, my mum asked us to go to AA. She thought I had a problem with my drink. So that was when I was about 21-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, and that scared the life out of us, and it made us think I shouldn't be there, because some of the stories that I heard weren't anything like myself. It was just, I thought I was just having fun, but obviously I've been back into AA, and yeah, I didn't have an issue at the time, but it definitely became an issue. But there was my partner, my mum, my stepdad, my dad, they all thought I did drink too much.
And then the gambling came in, with that a little bit later, in terms of, were you doing gambling and alcohol at the same time, or did one replace the other?
Yeah, both at the same time. So I guess gambling started with a football coupon on a weekend. Then I got into horse racing. That was when the real issue started, because it went from just having a punt on a Saturday afternoon to I was betting on horse racing every single day, even when there was nothing on. I was sitting up till 3, 4 in the morning watching horse racing over in America. I was sitting up dead late drinking. And yeah, gambling.
Wow, tough love, that, in terms of understanding how that could have impacted you. And then you also were smoking at the same time, you think, as well?
Yeah, I smoked for probably about nine or so years. I only stopped in July last year. Just obviously tobacco, cigarettes, but yeah, I was, especially when I was drinking, I was smoking probably 20, 40 a day. So
And then at some point last year, I think February, you suggested that then you took some decisions. But can you just talk about, if you're okay to, what was creating the mindset to suggest that checking out of life would be a good strategy for you?
So it was more November 2022. I made the decision to stop drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was sick of screwing up. I was sick of messing up, sick of failing as a father, and as a partner, as a son, or brother, everything. I wasn't happy in who I was, or who I who I became, even though I've been that person for a long time without realizing. I spent 4 months relapsing. Probably the first time I went 3 weeks, then it was about a week, 2 weeks, but it was never long. I never got up to a month of staying sober. It was constant relapses, and it was the more that was happening, the more it was battering my mental health. I
And did you
realized
do
that
that under your own guidance, or were you seeking help from many professionals or the AA to help you do that?
just here, my best friend over in Australia, I remember reaching out to him the next morning after I'd had this like the last drink before I decided, and he was like, "Get yourself to AA." And he went and he sent his, like I say, he's in Australia, and he Googled all the AA meetings, and he went, "Right, you're going here at 7 o'clock tonight." And I went, and I realized the person that was sharing their story that night, I got a lot from it, and I realized, like, yeah, this is probably the right place for me to be. So I kept going back, but it wasn't enough to keep us sober. And I think it was because I'd become so reliant on it for every type of emotion that I had. I couldn't deal with a stressful day. I couldn't deal with good news. I was still gambling at this time as well. So the gambling and the alcohol go hand in hand, because if I had a good win, I wanted to drink and celebrate. If I had a bad day, I wanted to drink and forget about it. So they both came hand in hand. And when I'm doing one, it triggered the other. And that's what probably triggered relapses as well. So
And what kind of emotions were coming up for you when you were doing that? Was there any shame or guilt in terms of was it hidden, all this all these acts that you were doing?
no, I didn't hide any of them. At the start, I did hide. I would say I was somewhere else, but then the later on it got, I realized I'm probably expecting to be home or wherever by now. So I would come clean, and then yeah, like my stepdad would come to the pub where I was. I would say have like I would have some clothes and be planning to sleep in the car. He would take my car back to my mom's house. Most times when I relapsed, I came and stayed here, at my mom's house, and he would just say to us, "Look, I know you're in the pub. What time are you going to come home?" And I would come home at that time, because it would be like he didn't come in the pub and start sort of kicking off and shouting, saying, "What you doing here?" It was like, "Come on, you shouldn't be here. You know, you shouldn't be." I was like, "I don't want to be, but I can't actually deal with not now." So, and then yeah, there was only a few times where it got really out of hand and got messy, but soon enough became enough.
And for anybody listening, we have got a good story to tell that's coming from this. The fact you can see Reece confirms that there is a good story, and he's now such a what I would call a servant to community, and also the servant to the cause. But it's important that we just spend some time understanding Reece's journey before we can come out the other side and talk about hope and life. But at some point, Reece, you decided that you might have your last day on this planet. So can you help us describe what was going through your head on that day?
Yeah, so it was the Carabao Cup final. Newcastle had made the cup final, and I felt a lot of self-pity. Oh, how can I not? I've waited all this time for Newcastle to become good, get into a final. How
It
can I
is
not
it's
drink?
about 70 years now, isn't it? I think
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Fairs Cup was
exactly.
the last one, if I remember right. Yes.
And they've never been in like a cup final or anything since I've been like old enough to drink or anything. So this was like first time I was able to like so I decided I was going to drink on this day anyways. Went to the pub, got some cans, went home, started running out of cans. And that's when the problem really started, because I was like, every time I started running quite low on drink, it would be like I would get irritable, quite angry, because I just wanted that next drink. I couldn't deal with not having that next drink. So when it got to whatever time it was, I ended up walking out the house, and I was on my way to a pub while my partner rang my mum. My mum, because my partner's in the house with the kids, and she was pregnant at this time as well. And my mum came and had a conversation with us, and I said, "Mum, I just need a drink." So I went in the bar, and I think I had a couple of pints, and then from there I walked out, and I walked straight over the road where the train crossing is, and I just walked straight up the tracks. I sent a message to Charlotte, my partner. I sent a message to like my group of friends, and I just said, I can't do this anymore. I can't I kind of keep fighting it. I was really trying hard. I didn't want to drink, but I couldn't stop. I really couldn't stop, and it wasn't for a lack of trying, because I really did put a lot of effort into stopping. And I just decided I couldn't keep living that way, because I knew I was hurting Charlotte, my partner. I was hurting my kids. I was hurting my mom, everyone, all my family, all my friends. They were all in, like, can't think of the right word. But yeah, they were.
And when you were in that position, I know some people talk about themselves being in a bit of a fog and not being able to remember the rational aspect of their decision making. Were you aware of writing that text, sending the text to those people that you were saying goodbye to, perhaps?
Yeah, I was aware.
Okay.
I knew I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't. Just, yeah, I couldn't deal with that feeling of failure. That I've really struggled with that throughout quite a bit of my life, and that's probably played a part in why I did drink in the first place to a certain extent. And just constant relapses just completely broke us to a point of I couldn't keep letting people down, and that's what essentially took me onto them train tracks. And if it wasn't for my mum coming to the train tracks while they're crossing and picking up the phone and ringing them and telling them I was on the train lines, then I don't think I would be here now. I can't say I wouldn't be here now. You don't know what would have happened, but I don't think I would have been here. I only came off the train tracks when I seen the train coming at a crawling pace, and it was stopped a couple of 100 yards away. Obviously, from that point, I knew there was nothing going to happen. So I
And
came
how
off the
close
tracks.
was your mum to you at that particular point in terms of distance away from you?
A good couple of 100 yards, because I'd walked quite far down the train tracks, and she was still at the crossing. My stepdad and one of my best friends had came to the side of the train tracks, because you can kind of it's not far from where my mom's house is, and you can kind of walk along the side of it. And they were asking us to come off, and I just couldn't. And in the end, I came off. Like I say, when the trains were, it was stopped, and it was horrendous. I came back to my mom's again, and the police ended up coming. They said they were going to refer us to the crisis team. They didn't end up doing that. And that was kind of the start of a difficult period where I was trying to reach out for help and I couldn't get help.
Tell us about those attempts that you. Well, first of all, I mean, can I just thank you for sharing that story, and also for just having the bravity to talk about it today. But for anybody that is listening, I would really urge you to say, if there's any part of this discussion that is making you feel as though you want to do something, then 116-123 is a Samaritan's number, and there are many other places where you can go for an immediate help right now. But Reece, you obviously came off the tracks. Your mum was there, and thankfully you're here to tell the tale. But what happened next in terms of, you said you reached out for help and it didn't come?
Yeah, so when the next morning I was waiting for the crisis team to call, I thought it was going to happen really early. Nothing happened there. My partner ended up ringing the crisis team. That's when we found out the referral hadn't been made. So that point, she referred me. They came out and they basically just said it was down to alcohol, and that I probably wasn't struggling with my mental health, which beyond belief, really, isn't it? So they left. They said, if you want, you can refer yourself to talking therapies. So I tried to ring them. The total is the waiting list was over a year. So I went, no, it's fine. I put it down, and the more people I rang, and the more I got told the waiting list was 9 to 12 months, the more I was getting in a worse hole, because I'd been at the point where I probably would have been dead had it not been for my mum. To actually trying to ask for help to stop me from going back to that point, and there was just no one there to actually help, and it was scary. So after about 2 weeks of trying, I just decided I'm not picking up the phone anymore. I'll just do this on my own. I haven't had a drink since that day, and I don't plan to ever have a drink again.
You classify yourself as a complete non-drinker now.
Yes, yeah, I'm over, I think 410 days sober. Yeah, I've got no intention to ever have a drink again. My life is so much better now that I'm sober, and yeah, there was still a lot happened after so this was the 27th of February till the start of March, say, where I was trying to get help. Up until and then there was a couple of month period there where my mental health was in absolute tatters. I would say I signed up to the village gym because I was off work at this point. And when I was going to the gym, I would sit in my car for 45 minutes to an hour with that bad anxiety because I couldn't get out of the car. And I'd never really struggled with anxiety until and then I did really start struggling with it. I was some days I struggled to leave the house. I say going to the gym would take us an hour until I could get out the car.
Can you help me understand what part of anxiety was? Was it the judgment of people? Was it meeting people? What was the anxiousness route?
I genuinely I couldn't even tell you because it didn't last that long. It was I think it was just so many different things happening at once. The suicide attempt, the not being able to get help. It was just a crazy time, and I think I just really struggled to process everything, and then the emotions probably just blew my head to bits really, and then the anxiety started. I could feel my chest. My chest was going a bit, like me breathing and everything. It was really horrible, but yeah, it didn't last too long.
But there were no other feelings around, I'm going to go and find another train track or a road or a bridge. There was nothing of that nature that was coming up for you, or was that still a little bit present?
Yeah, so I think through all this time I didn't really want to be alive. But I was staying sober. I was trying to do the right things.
When you say, sorry to interrupt you, when you say, was it a painful voice that was in you in terms of a voice that was saying, Reece, you're not good enough, or how can you do this, or how can you cause this damage to other people? What was the stimulus for wanting to take that response of not being here?
I think the not wanting to be here came from still feeling like a failure. Nothing had really changed. I wasn't getting any help. I didn't feel like I was getting better. But there was that feeling of not wanting to be here, but there wasn't that sort of wanting to take the action, if that makes sense. I had that feeling that I didn't, but I didn't have any sort of plan to do it up until probably about this time last year. Actually, I done Manchester Marathon.
Well, let's just wait. I mean, suddenly we've gone from not getting out of the car to Manchester Marathon. I feel I've just missed a vital part of the journey here. So something must have changed then around your internal persona or your own self-worth, where you decided that you were going to get on the front foot and start to fight back. Describe whether there was a moment, or was it just a combination of little dots coming together?
I don't think it was any of that, to be honest. I don't think I was always even signing up to the gym, and I still, even if I sat in the car for a long time, I did end up getting out, and I did end up doing it because I knew I had to push myself mentally to do things that didn't feel comfortable. So even though I'd already signed up to Manchester Marathon as well, so this was, and I guess I was just trying to keep pushing on and not completely give up. And that's why I decided to do Manchester. And I was speaking to someone at the time, and they recommended to do Manchester because the running's great for us. I've always known that, and I'd stopped that completely through trying to stop alcohol. I didn't really do it. I put on hold the things that were really good for us, and that probably played a big part in where I got to. Instead of using that as a way to stop, But I guess when I decided to do Manchester Marathon, this was one thing I always I always have a goal. And even though I hadn't been running, I decided I'm going to do a sub-4 marathon, because I'd only done one marathon prior to that, and it was Kielder. And Kielder is like very, very hilly. It's not a nice one. But I did 4:47, I think, there. So I decided under 4 hours, I'll give it my best shot. And I'd done 4 hours and 2 minutes. So I was back to feeling like an utter failure.
Even though, so you've come from all of that adversity, you signed up to do Manchester Marathon, and then you did a 4 hours 2, which, by the way, is a very good time. And then but you still came away from that with a feeling of bereftness.
Yeah, I felt like I let myself down, let everyone else down. I just felt like a failure again. Back to then, like exactly how I was feeling when I was relapsing and things like that. Which led to 2 days after, actually got in a car and went for a drive, and I'd parked myself in a place where I was next to a pub and a shop. So the plan with that was I could go in the pub, have a couple of pints to kind of take the edge off, such, to then go to the shop and buy a big bottle of rum, which could then take us to a point where, because I could never do anything unless I was really drunk, because the alcohol made us really selfish, and I couldn't have done it if I wasn't really drunk. So that was the thought process behind it, and then I could have went and finished off what I started on the 26th of February. But I put my chair back and I decided to just lie down and take some sort of deep breaths and have a little think, really. And I ended up falling asleep for 2.5 hours. Woke up, turned the car on, and just drove straight home as quick as I could. And I told Charlotte what had just happened. And I guess we just talked about it. And that was the last moment I really had. That was the last sort of any sort of attempt or plan or thought process behind it. But that it still wasn't plain sailing for probably another 3 weeks. And it was coming up to my 30th birthday, and the whole time I was trying to stop, it was the self-pity of, oh, I can't drink for this. I can't drink Christmas, Boxing Day, or my 30th's coming up. So I decided, me and Charlotte went away on the Sunday on my actual birthday, and we went to Rockcliffe Hall, had a spa day, went for some food. And I drink a lot of the 0% lagers. But when I was in here, they don't like that and they don't recommend that, but they've really helped me. And that was probably the first night I drank them on the night there, and it felt good. I didn't feel like I needed a drink. And a couple of days after that, I'd done the David Goggins 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours challenge. And then I've got to laugh, honestly. It's I started 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'd done the 8 o'clock one. And I thought I'll try.
Sorry, you said that really quickly then. I mean, I know what it is, but can you just explain in detail what that actually means for? So just explain it a bit more if you can.
Yeah, so it's 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours, and the 4 miles are only every 4 hours. So say if mine started at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and next one's 8 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, so on up until you've done the 48 hours.
And a 4 mile run for you at your pace, I guess, was taking you what, about 40 minutes, maybe?
I think the first one, I think the first one I'd done was stupid. I think I'd done about 29 minutes or 28 minutes, realizing that was a bit too quick. And I think the rest of them were probably about 36 minutes, 32 minutes. Just
so imagine if you're listening, for the next 2 days, you're going to have to run every 4 hours for at least 30 minutes. And you're going to do that for the next 2 days. That's the Goggins 4 and 4 and 48 challenge. Huge respect, Reece. Massive.
Well, I kind of...
No. Huge respect, Reece. Massive.
Yeah, so I decided after the 8 o'clock one on the first night that I was going to have an hour or so sleep, because I had a couple of people come to my house to do the 12 o'clock one with me. I fell asleep a little bit later than I planned. And then I didn't wake up from my alarms. So I woke up at 20 to 4 in the morning and I was like, right, well, I failed this challenge. I was lying on the sofa. And right, what's the point? I've let these two people down out at my house. I've let everyone that sponsored me down, blah blah blah. That whole self-pity and feeling of failure again. And I lay there for about 20 minutes and I just thought, I might not have done the actual challenge of on that 4 hours, but I got up and I ran 8 miles and it's like 20 past 4 in the morning and it was possibly the most peaceful 8 miles of my life. The sun was just coming up, birds are tweeting, there was barely any cars on the road, and it was a beautiful morning as well. And I didn't have any headphones or anything. It was literally just me, and I can't actually explain how special that bit of time was.
Now, I can fully empathize because I did a 24-hour challenge. And again, I'm just trying to level with you in terms of, I know I was out 2 o'clock in the morning, looked up, and the stars were just the most brilliant clarity that I've ever known. The peace and the solitude was so comforting. And I just thought, wow, this is magic. So I can completely understand how that made you, perhaps, your little hairs tingle on the back of your neck.
Yeah, oh, it definitely did that. But by the time I'd finished that 8 miles, there was barely any time before then having to get out, and I think I had a chance to get something to eat, and then let that settle, and then I was back out at 8 o'clock in the morning. And when I got in from that one, I went and had 2 hours sleep, knowing that Charlotte was there. She wasn't at work. She could come and wake us up. I give her permission to hit us, pour water on us, do whatever you need to do. You just wake me up. I woke up and I'd done every one, and I remember like the last one, my cousin, one of my friends, joined us, and we went up to the coast, and felt amazing. I felt good. I was running quite quick. I think I was doing 7-minute miles for most of it, if not under that. And I finished, and I remember that feeling, and it was like a flick of the switch. Mental health went from being down on the floor to better than I'd felt in years. It
Well,
was
just,
it was special.
I don't know whether anybody's listening or watching, but you can tell the energy that you've got now, even compared to where 5 minutes ago, talking about two different parts of the year. We're talking probably 3 weeks apart. And it's just, it's like a different Reece that's suddenly talking to us.
Yeah, no, it's if you had to put the two people in front of you, and you wouldn't have thought they were the same person. And that, like you say, that is a few weeks apart. It's crazy what a few weeks can do. And that's why I think I like to share my story, because whatever you're going through right now doesn't mean that you're going to be going through it next month. And that was the start of everything getting on the right track. And things haven't been absolutely smooth sailing since. I haven't. Everything's not all rosy and everything like that, but it's so much better now.
Well, life isn't rosy. Life deals us lots of different cards, but it's how we choose. I talk about stimulus and response, and it's how we choose to look at that card and then have grace for it, respect for it, time for it. But that is life. It's a series of different battles, challenges, and triumphs. And sometimes you got to deal with them. Sometimes you can celebrate them. But you've obviously now managed to find a way to have self-worth, self-love, and self-respect for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm still learning that. It's there's still that feeling of failure and things there still quite a bit, but I'm definitely getting better at giving myself some credit. Since things started just going right for us, when I stopped drinking and I started doing the right things, I got a new job, big promotion, working for a charity. So I've always done charity work and sort of fundraising, different challenges, raising money for charities. So this job I'm doing, I'm working for one charity as the payroll manager, where we support lots of other charities in the Northeast and beyond. with their payroll, so it gets to take sort of some pressure off them having to run their own payroll and things like that. So being able to support them, it gives us that feeling of I'm doing good, I'm helping, I'm trying to make a difference.
So this time, actually Saturday, I think it's the Manchester Marathon, and
Yeah.
then in 2 weeks' time the London Marathon. But tell us about the best, well, not best, but tell us about the most testing challenge you've recently done, and the way that you've also partnered with the Baton of Hope and the Jordan Legacy, Reece.
Yeah, so I'd already planned to do the Edinburgh Marathon and the Wall, and then I kind of signed up to the Bridges to Boundary Ultra, which was the first time that's happened, and that was in March, which I think it was meant to be 32 miles, but it ended up being 35. Well, just
What's
under.
3 miles amongst friends?
I can't tell you, I felt them. I felt them
Well,
at the end.
perhaps you can tell us why you felt it more than most people would. But let's just first of all understand how you decided to partner with the Jordan Legacy and maybe a little bit about the charity there and how you came about to know them.
Yeah, so I used to I was a host on a podcast for a bit of time and last year, and one of my friends who's still a host on it, he tagged us in a post on LinkedIn basically saying, and it was Steve Phillip, the founder of the Jordan Legacy, and he was saying, give me the best reason why you should get London Marathon place, because they've been gifted one place. And I seen it, it was like, would you fundraise for us? In the 4 points he made, I couldn't have. I knew I shouldn't do it. I knew I had a lot of races this year, but there was just something, and I was like, I've got to do this. So I commented on it, told him, like I've said tonight, about my story, where my life went and what had been happening, and he messages like, yeah, you've got the place, Reece. And since then, we're kind of, I'd had the pages and stuff set up, but I said to him, I said, since the first event's not till the middle of March, 26th of February 2024 was a year since I tried to commit suicide. So we launched my page and stuff on that day. And that's when Steve put his post out, that's when we connected on LinkedIn as well. So it's had a really positive effect, really. I've met a lot of new people. His messages being spread. I'm up to just under 1,500 on the page, and that's with only one run done. So I've still got London, Edinburgh, and the Wall to do. But yeah, it's an amazing charity. The work they all do there, and especially Steve and Paul. And I'm hoping to make their event in
the 12th of June.
12th of June, yeah.
12th of June. Yeah.
So it's 3 days before the Wall.
Yeah. So you now run and you go run quite a long way. You talked about that 35 miles, and you did the Bridges to Bridges Ultra. And then you said to one of your mates, I'm going to do it in fancy dress.
So I decided to auction off the outfit to the highest bidder, to the Just Given page. Yeah, I'm kind of regretting that now, because the winning bid was £60, which is what it cost me to pay for the outfit.
Now, I've seen the picture, but perhaps you can describe it for the audience. what not just the outfit, but also perhaps the embarrassment perhaps caused by what you were wearing as well.
Yeah, so basically, in short, it was a sperm donor outfit. It was a all-in-one suit that really not easily only tied at the back, which causes a lot of issues when you're doing a long race like an ultra. It had a tail, it had the biggest headpiece you've ever seen, and I thought it was going to be a holocase. It wasn't. There was a pillow in the back of it, which made it extremely hot. And even though it was the middle of March, we seemed to get a very hot day on that one Saturday that I was running this ultra. So about 25 miles in, I really started to feel the effects of the heat. I started to struggle quite a bit, but I managed to keep the outfit on the whole time. And I think it was about 14 miles in, I stopped one of the marshals and I asked him to get some scissors out of his first aid bag, and I cut a hole in the front, so because it was just taking too much time. I didn't even but like trying, because I knew by the time I took my pack off, undone it, I would have lost about 5 minutes. So I just kind of waited until I got some scissors, cut a hole, and I was able to go to the toilet.
So you were dressed in a 6 foot sperm outfit and you
Yeah.
raced that race from point to point. And how long did it take you to do?
I think it was 5.5 hours.
Which is absolutely incredible, Reece. I mean, I know there are a lot of people who would do a marathon and be happy with 5.5 hours. And yeah, you are running on a hot day in a 6 foot fluffy sperm outfit. And I would urge anybody, I'm going to put the link in the Just Giving site. It costs you 60 quid. The least anybody could do is put 60 quid in to the donation page. But now you're going on to do the wall. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so on the Just Giving page as well, you'll be able to see the pictures of me dressed as a giant sperm.
I might even put it on the thumbnail of the podcast.
Why not? I can send you the pictures. Yeah, so I've got London Marathon next week. 4 weeks after it is Edinburgh Marathon, which is the marathon. That's my main aim. I'm really going to go for that and get as close to a 3 hour marathon as I can. Then the wall. This will be my second time doing the wall. So I did it in 2022 when I was deep in my drinking days as well. So I ended up having 5 or 6 pints the night before. Doing the wall. I finished in 17 hours, 49 minutes. It was horrendous.
How many miles is that?
70. I ended up walking quite a long way.
And what does running mean to you, Reece? Why run?
Gives us freedom. I've got a really busy life now because I work hard. I've got 3 young kids. I've got a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and an 8-month-old. I coach my oldest son's football team. Well, I'm an assistant coach there at Wallsend Boys Club. So we train on a Tuesday night. He's got games on a Sunday. Saturday we try and do stuff as a family. Yeah, my son also plays for Newcastle Academy, so he plays down a Monday night and a Friday night. So pretty much every night I'm doing something. Last night I was volunteering at an addiction charity where I go and speak. The charity itself helps the loved ones of someone in addiction. So I go and speak to them, and well, the reason for it is to give them hope that their loved one can get out of their hole and issues as well. But no, it's mental how much being able to get out for that run just gives me that peace of mind. I used to always run in headphones. Now I never take them. Is
there any part of the running that hurts you? I know you talked about David Goggins and his mantra is "you can't hurt me." Is there any part of the running that hurts you, that enables you to have a sense of coping with some of the hurt that your drinking or your gambling or your addictions were causing you?
I think yes, to some extent. Running can become the way my mind works is if I'm on a really strict plan and I miss one, I end up not running for weeks. So I have to be careful with running. I can't run at the moment because I had a minor up last week to the snip to stop any more children. So I've been taking it easy and I haven't run in since that Sunday. And normally, if I don't run, I can really feel my head getting cloudy and I do start to struggle when I don't run. But I've really needed this little bit of a break because that many things happening and trying to fit the running, it can start to become a burden on your life as well. And it shouldn't be that. The running for me is about enjoyment. And there's some runs where I go out and I'm like, what am I doing? And I'm not enjoying this. But on the other hand, I do want to get to a point where I can become quite strict with a plan, and because I know I can go and get my times on marathons. And at one point I wanted to win the wall. And I know that's unrealistic now, and there's no way in hell I can do that, but I'll give it a good go.
Well, I would really implore you to just enjoy it as well, in terms of the fact that it's an incredible thing that you're doing, whatever happens. And the purpose that it would give me to be able to run for some of those charities would be really special. And hopefully you can really look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, Reece, you're doing all right here.
Yeah, thank you.
And what about your three kids, 6-year-old and 2-year-old and 8-month-old? Have you sat down and felt lucky to still be here and to see them playing in their own little liberated way of life?
Yeah, I think when it happened, I nearly didn't meet my youngest son. Charlotte was pregnant at the time. He was born in July last year. There was two weeks when I was on paternity leave. It was coming to the end of my paternity leave, and I was really mental because I was sat there and I was just holding him. And even though I'd held him loads of times within that time, I looked and it hit us that I nearly didn't have that time of holding him, and I just burst into tears. My partner said, "What's wrong? What's happened to him?" And I was saying, "Nothing. I just feel very, very happy and grateful that I'm lucky enough to have this moment." And see my son play football and how well he's progressing with that. And my little girl, she's just the most. She's hard work. She's got her own mind, and I love that about her. And she's just so loving as well. I'm really grateful. My three kids are absolutely amazing. And my partner as well. Like, she's put up with a lot, and she's stuck by us, and I'm very grateful for that as well.
Well, we're happy and grateful that you're here, Reece, and I really, really appreciate you sharing your story today with such vulnerability and such openness. And also, I know Steve and Paul and many others will thank you massively for enabling others to see what happens to people and also how we can come out of the other side and serve others in such a compassionate and great way. So thank you for what you're doing.
No problem. Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm excited. I'm excited for life. I'm happy. I'm happy with how my life is. It is busy, but I need busy as well. I need to keep my mind active, and the running's a good way for that. The doing these podcasts and the volunteering that I do. It all helps keep me in a stable and happy way.
Well, I can see that, and I really I'd love to bottle that excitement up and sell it and make some money out of it, because it's definitely a recipe worth having. What would be your three takeaways, Reece, for anybody listening to live a long, healthy, and life that is full of compassion for oneself?
I think family's got to be number one. I've put them through a lot, so I try and be that happy, nice person now and give back to them. Second would be connection, friendship. You need to have good connection with people. And I've met a group of lads that I'm doing Edinburgh Marathon with that they're all pretty much in a similar boat to me. I met them through doing sea dips, and they've been a massive saviour. They've helped us when I've had struggles, and so to have that connection and finding that group, it's amazing. And then the third, it's got to be exercise, and I say exercise rather than running because everyone has their own. For me, it's running. I do love football. I love all type of sports really. But the exercise and I suppose the sea dips can also fall into that. They're amazing for your mental health. Like I can't honestly recommend doing them enough. But yeah, they would be my three things to keep a happy life.
I love that: family, connection, and exercise. Reece, you have a strong mindset, and it's good to see that you have pivoted your mind to serve you with strength in the right ways now. And I'm looking forward to our next steps together. But for now, I really want to appreciate you for the time you've given us today, the great causes that you are helping contribute to. And I think that there's an awful lot that's going to come out of Reece Calvert in the future that we'll be immensely grateful for. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Thank you.